straightforward. In a 1936 book entitled The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, John Maynard Keynes developed a revolutionary general theory to explain the cause of the Great Depression and suggest what policies government can undertake to end the existence of persistent higher levels of unemployment. Keynes wrote this book is chiefly addressed to my fellow economists, to tell them that the orthodox classical theory was at fault, in a lack of clearness and of generality in its premises. Keynes indicated that his general theory's conclusions were in contrast with those of the classical theory, where the postulates of the classical theory are applicable to a special case, that happens not to be the economic society in which we actually live, with the result that its teaching is misleading and disastrous if we attempt to apply it to the facts of experience. 2. After the Second World War, economic textbooks devoted several chapters to a macroeconomic theory that was called Keynesian theory, although the micro-foundations of this mainstream Keynesian theory was based on classical economic theory. Joan Robinson, a famous economist who was a student of Keynes in the 1930s, called this mainstream Keynesian theory bastard Keynesianism since it attempted to merge classical theory of individual decision making in the marketplace with some macroeconomic terminology developed by Keynes. For more than 4 decades, in professional articles and books that I have written, I have been trying to convince mainstream economists in academia that what they have been teaching as Keynesian economics was not the general theory developed by John Maynard Keynes in his 1936 book. I have stressed that mainstream Keynesian macroeconomics has as its micro-foundation classical theory, typically a mathematical form of classical theory called general equilibrium theory. Consequently, policy implications developed from this bastard Keynesianism often produced, as Keynes said classical theory would, misleading and sometimes disastrous results. This has become more obvious with the global financial crisis of 2007 to 2008 and the Great Recession that has lasted almost a decade since the onset of this global financial crisis. In 1994, I wrote a textbook that I addressed to my fellow economists and their students entitled Post-Keynesian Macroeconomic Theory to contrast the technical aspects of classical-based Keynesian theory with the development of a post-Keynesian analysis that brings Keynes's original general theory up to date in explaining the operation of modern money using market-oriented economies. Although this textbook has gone through 2 editions and continues to sell, I found that mainstream economists, including government economic advisors, central bankers, and economists at many financial enterprises were not ready to accept this Keynes post-Keynesian analysis. Instead, they still use some variant of the false bastard Keynesian theory. The result has been that many government economic policies have not solved the economic problems we have experienced, and some policies often have made things appear to be worse. Moreover, as I note in chapter 2 of this book, in congressional testimony, mainstream economist former Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan stated he was shocked in disbelief when the global financial crisis occurred in 2007, and this event has caused the entire intellectual edifice of mainstream macroeconomic theory to collapse. When I read that Queen Elizabeth of Great Britain had asked economists at the London School of Economics why nobody had seen the development of the global financial crisis, and then I read the foolish answer the Queen received, I thought the time was ripe to write a book aimed at my fellow economists to explain, in some technical detail, how Keynes post-Keynesian theory provided a factual explanation of the cause of the global financial crisis. My book would also provide evidence that, several years before the crisis, I had warned, in print, of the coming of a financial crisis. This book was entitled Post-Keynesian Theory and Policy 3 and was published in 2015 by Edward Elgar. Some of the material in this book was included in that volume, and I am grateful to Edward Elgar for allowing me to reproduce it here. In the campaign for nomination for President of the USA, I noted that the potential presidential candidates failed to provide the public with any correct policies that would solve the global economic problems that we are facing. I decided to rewrite the message of my post-Keynesian theory and policy in a new book that is stripped of its most technical jargon. I indicated that I believed that many highly intelligent readers of economic writings that uses technical verbiage regarding models, theories, equations, etc. find such texts uninvitingly dismal and obtuse. I wanted to present the post-Keynesian policy message in a simple language that the average intelligent layperson can understand rather than providing an explanation in the vocabulary of the professional economist. I suggested that the title for this new book should be Who's Afraid of John Maynard Keynes? My hope for this new book was by providing these ideas in a simple exposition, I could educate the voting population to understand the economic problems our economy faces. They could then demand that those running for political office provide economic policies that address directly these understandable economic problems and b. were capable of developing policies in an understandable manner to assure a prosperous full employment economy. Knoxville, USA. Paul Davidson. Notes. 1. J. M. Keynes, The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, Macmillan, London, 1936, pv. 2. Opposite, page 3. 3. P. Davidson, Post-Keynesian Theory and Policy, Edward Elgar, Cheltenham, 2005.